How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Wow, that was a voice crack right at the beginning of the show. Welcome, my fellow Americans. Going through puberty here as a 40-year-old, apparently. Welcome. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida today, coming to you from WOKV in Jacksonville, here for a charity event for their local children's hospital tonight at 4 p.m., serving up some of my favorite bourbons to some donors to the children's hospital. I got Ed Sheeran looking at me at the door across the hall. I keep looking over like, who's standing there? It's him. Poster, at least, got the music station next door. We got to talk about Christopher Wray. So I got to be honest with you, my flight got moved yesterday, and I had to rush out the door. And in scrambling, I had to pre-record the last half hour of my show to be able to make my flight on time because of the flight change. And as I am walking out the door, the New York Times sends the push alert: Christopher Wray is going to step down from leading the FBI. He has not resigned yet, but he intends to resign, and they are not having a normal one in the media because of it. Why? Because they had convinced themselves that Christopher Wray was some sort of white knight protecting them, which is part of the problem. Let's be honest here. When you have Andrew McCabe on CNN talking about the nonpartisanship of the FBI and the scary nature of the department of the FBI, if Kash Patel is there and the like, these people, they're not having a normal one. And this is Dan Goldman. He was on Morning Joe. He's a Democratic congressman. He's the guy who assured us all that Joe Biden would never pardon Hunter Biden. He on Morning Joe. And
to do what was best for the FBI. That is not what is probably best, or I would say what is best for the country. I would have much rather that he waited and made Donald Trump actually justify firing him.
Now, here's the problem with this. It's just very straightforward. First of all, you need to understand the media is trying to claim, as are Democrats, that the FBI director gets a 10-year term. That's not true. That is the same people who lecture us on misinformation and disinformation. That is misinformation. The FBI director is limited to a maximum of 10 years, but serves at the pleasure of the president. This reminds me, it's a very similar playbook that Democrats and media are using to when George W. Bush fired a bunch of U.S. attorneys at the end of his administration, replacing them with other people. The reason George W. Bush did that in particular was because he wanted other people to have the experience and title of U.S. attorney. It would help them in the jobs market. A lot of the U.S. attorneys were just kind of hanging out by then, coasting, so he fired them, put in younger guys, give them the experience of being U.S. attorney, help them in their job search after Bush left the White House. And the media turned it into a national scandal that somehow Bush was not allowed to do this. Actually, U.S. attorneys, like the FBI directors, they serve at the pleasure of the President of the United States. They can be fired at will by the president. The FBI director can be. And not every FBI director gets a guaranteed 10 years. And FBI directors get a maximum of 10 years. But they're peddling the misinformation. Here's the problem, though, for those of you who are freaked out about Kash Patel. And, oh, my goodness gracious, people are totally freaking out about the idea of Kash Patel. Here is supposed historian Douglas Brinkley on, again, MSNBC, Morning Joe this morning in conversation with them.
I'm curious your thoughts just looking at the resignation. Chris Wray had a chance to stay in there and fight, like Jay Powell, who said, I'm not going anywhere. And the thing about Donald Trump is we've seen in the past, a lot of times he will push up to the line and hold and wait. Shouldn't Wray have stayed in there for the sake of history? So history would record that Donald Trump fired 2 FBI directors, unprecedented. One of them, an FBI director that he actually appointed himself.
I think he should have stayed 100%. We were counting on him to. You know, everybody's got to kind of hit the barricades right now and do what's best for the country, not what's best for themselves or what's best for an agency. And I thought this was a unique opportunity to have one of those the guardrails of we have so few that at least there would be a continuity there in FBI so things wouldn't go harem scarum right after the inauguration. But alas, now Trump's going to get the FBI, and that's, if there is such a thing as a Department of Revenge and Retribution, that's where it's going to be emanating from Kash Patel and the people he brings in. And
Okay, a couple of things here. First of all, notice how MSNBC keeps bringing on these American historians who turn out to be stark raving lunatic leftists. So many of these people, you had Michael Beschloss, haven't seen him in a while, melting down on MSNBC. Now you're bringing in Douglas Brinkley to serve in the role of Michael Beschloss with hysteria. Remember, these people freaked out a few weeks ago at the idea that Donald Trump would bypass Congress and just appoint Kash Patel during a recess. Here's how the law works. As a lawyer who has done work with the Federal Vacancies Act, here's how the law works. The president can appoint someone to a position when that position becomes vacant while Congress is in recess. The president can appoint someone to a vacant position if that position becomes vacant while Congress is in recess. There are parameters through which it must happen. There are certainly qualifiers that have to take place, and arguably Kash Patel doesn't meet those qualifiers, but Congress has to be in recess for the Federal Vacancies Act to apply. If Christopher Wray stayed on as FBI director, just follow along with me here, y'all. Let's do what Douglas Brinkley and the rest of them want. Christopher Wray stays in his position. Donald Trump is able to convince the House of Representatives to fight with the Senate on a recess, which gives Donald Trump the power to put them into recess. And then he fires Christopher Wray and he puts Kash Patel in, who can serve for 2 years without needing confirmation. For 2 years, he could stay there. What do they prefer? Do they prefer that Christopher Wray resign before Trump gets there, which under the law precludes Donald Trump from doing a recess appointment? Why? Because the law says that if the vacancy exists before the Senate goes into recess, you can't appoint someone without Senate confirmation. It's what they wanted. I mean, this is a way of saying that they're not happy either way. They don't want Donald Trump to be able to recess appoint, but if Christopher Wray stayed and Trump fired him after he was in office, he could do a recess appointment. If Christopher Wray gets out now, the vacancy is there when the Congress comes into session in January. It precludes a recess appointment, and now they're upset that somehow Christopher Wray did what was good for him and bad for the country. There's no winning with insane people. It's tails you lose, heads they win. There's no winning with these people. They're just malcontented souls who are angry one way or the other, and they're not rational beings when it comes to this, and they're freaked out about this. This is Dave Ehrenberg. Listen to this conversation. This is him also on MSNBC this morning, increasingly sounding like they would be perfectly happy, given where this is headed, that madmen take on Donald Trump and his team. Listen to this.
David, your thoughts on this? You obviously know the law enforcement world so well. Wray says he didn't want to be a distraction for the FBI, but I think the arguments have been made. He should have stayed in, make Trump pull the trigger, if you will. What are your thoughts on that and your concerns about Trump's intended replacement for Wray, Kash Patel?
I was disappointed, Jonathan, that Wray capitulated. That's what he did. He ran from the building. He's still fighting the last war. He's still in a world of norms. This is the Trump era. It's different. He should have stayed and fought, forced Trump to fire him.
Okay. So had he stayed and fought, by the way, this is a Palm Beach County attorney who gets airtime because he hates Donald Trump. He says Wray should have stayed. He should have forced Trump to fire him. Why? Why stay? Why stay? These people live in a fantasy land. They're living in a fantasy land where somehow there would be some moral good to come from Christopher Wray staying so Trump could wait for a congressional recess, fire him, and slide Cash Patel in without having a congressional investigation, without congressional confirmations. It's so stupid. And then this idea of independence. This idea of independence. That somehow the FBI is independent. The FBI is not independent. When you're accountable to the President of the United States of America, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the United States, he is the executive branch of government, you are not independent. That, again, it's a media Democrat norm so that they can say the Republicans are shattering a norm that is not normal. It's just something they concocted to claim a level of normalcy that's undeserved. It's not normal. These people are nuts. They're hysterics. Christopher Wray has no entitlement to the job. He never had entitlement to the job. What I find notable is the number of former FBI guys who are going on MSNBC, who are going on CNN, who are reliably progressive. Is that not funny? Can they not find a conservative commentator from the FBI? Can they not find a conservative commentator who used to work at the State Department? They always find progressives. It suggests to me that Donald Trump is right about part of the problem is you got progressive groupthink inside the bureaucracy. Remember, the FBI for years, for decades, has raised the flag about right-wing, or rather left-wing terrorism in this country. And under Joe Biden, it's all about right-wing terror. And yet, the kid who killed the CEO, left-wing, the anti-Semitic attacks on college campuses, coming from the left wing. The guy, did you hear about the guy in California who shot the children at the daycare? They had 2 kids get shot at a daycare. Why? The guy is an extremist who supports the Palestinians and decided to kill kids. He's a left-wing extremist. Time and time again, left-wing extremism. James Hodgkinson, mass assassination attempt on Congress, left-wing extremists, time and time again. And yet, all of a sudden, Joe Biden, and then when Barack Obama was here, suddenly the FBI is like, oh, we must be worried about the right in this country. I don't see the right doing mass assassination attempts, randomly gunning down CEOs on the streets of Manhattan. I don't see the right doing that. And then when the circle of jerks get together on television, it's always a left-wing guy from the FBI. It's a left-wing guy from the intelligence community. It's John Brennan from the intelligence community telling us that Hunter Biden laptop story, that's Russian disinformation. Where are all the conservatives? Do they not exist? I am beginning to believe conservatives don't exist in our intelligence community and in the FBI. All the talking heads are on the left. That's why they're in this groupthink bubble. And, of course, what the left tells themselves is, well, that just means the facts are on our side. History's on our side. No, it means you're selectively hiring people who echo your worldview, so you have no reason to understand what half the country thinks. And it's why you lost. The hysteria over Christopher Wray, there was no way for Christopher Wray to survive if Donald Trump wanted him gone. And the only thing Christopher Wray could do to make it difficult on Donald Trump was to resign. And these people are unhappy he did it because they're so broken, they can't even see reality right in front of them. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your attention for a moment. My buddy Clark Howard is going to come on with me tomorrow at 2:30. I'm doing an event for local Children's Cancer Center in Florida today, so I'm in Jacksonville. It's a great program, and I don't want to distract from it, but I got to put something on your radar because it means the world to me. and I hope you can help. My buddy Clark Howard every year tries to buy a Christmas present for every child in foster care in the state of Georgia. And I realize some of you, you're in New York listening, you're in Connecticut, you're in Montana, nationwide audience. I get it. But also, you want to do something really cool for Christmas this year. You're not doing it in your state, but we've got a program in my state. Literally every kid in foster care from newborn to age 18, you can have the opportunity to make sure they have a Christmas present for someone somewhere to recognize that someone out there cared enough to do something. There are a lot of families who take foster kids in the program, but they don't have the means to be able to make sure everybody gets everything they want for Christmas. Clark Howard has been doing this program for years, and I am told that this year they're actually running behind and may not be able to meet the goal and could use some help. If you are willing to ensure that every child in foster care gets a present, if you text the word donate to 33777, I will send you back a link to clarkschristmaskids.com. You can give a monetary donation, and the staff will be able to make sure that the presents are picked, or you can go by county, you can go by age of child, you can go by sex of child, whatever you want. You can find an age-appropriate gift for a boy or girl in the state of Georgia that's in foster care that otherwise is not going to get a Christmas present. All you have to do is text the word donate to 33777. I know someone's listening to me right now in California. They're like, why not California? Because we don't have this program in California. I can't do it. I wish I could, but I do know there's a child somewhere in foster care in the state of Georgia that is not going to have a Christmas present unless one of you from California or Montana or from Georgia is willing to step up and help. If you will text the word donate to 33777, I will send you back the link, and every child in foster care is going to be able to get a Christmas present, and it's going to mean something to them that you cared. So please text donate to 33777 so that we can meet this goal and get every kid a Christmas present. Now, I got to tell you as well about Old Glory Bank. You know, as a matter of fact, I was having this conversation this morning, met with an advertiser down here in Jacksonville, Florida at Gordon Chevrolet, Nathan, and we were chatting about a particular national bank that is becoming more and more progressive. And I happen to know that this bank shut down the business checking account of a business because that business sold guns and was a gun range. And just sent them a certified letter with a certified check, said, we're done doing business with you. They refused to say why, but we all know why. Old Glory Bank would never do that because they're a conservative bank founded by conservatives, and they understand the debanking trends in the country, and they'd love to have your business. All you have to do is go to oldglorybank.com. You can get a personal checking account, a personal savings account. I have both with them. You can get a business checking account. You can do mortgages, car loans, equity lines, business loans, whatever you need. Oldglorybank.com. You can get it done online. Oldglorybank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. And yes, it really is my bank. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you. If you want to participate in buy-in presents for kids in foster care, please text the word donate to 33777. It would mean a whole lot to my buddy Clark Howard and to me if you would help buy presents for kids in foster care. I do want you guys to know something. A buddy of mine reached out to me, lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's kind of funny how this works, and I know Drew's going to be listening to the show at some point on podcast. And he texted me, and he said, hey, there's a pastor down in Jacksonville, Florida, and I listened to his sermons. I know you do interviews with pastors. This guy's name is Joey Martin, and would love it if you reached out to him to see if maybe he might be on your Christmas program. And I want everybody to know, after Drew, I land in Jacksonville, and I got a couple emails because I was talking about doing the Christmas show yesterday. Several other people said you should have Joby Martin on. So I went and went to Gordon Chevrolet today, and we were chatting with the guy who runs the joint, Nathan, and he brought the guy up as well. So I've emailed Joby Martin. I don't know if he'll get the email or if we'll be able to make it work to see if he'll be on the Christmas show with me, but I do want you to know I have done that. Hopefully he'll respond. Now, we need a serious conversation here, and that serious conversation needs to start with a specific bit of audio. This is from Angry Joy Reid with Elizabeth Warren on her program. Listen to this from yesterday.
We have this Luigi Mangione, the case about the United Healthcare CEO. People are very angry at United Healthcare. I think for good reason, denying care and the whole system. And we were just talking in the previous block. Killing a CEO is not the way you change. You have to regulate that, right? And so we've got attempts to try to rein in some of these big businesses. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was your creation. The Trump administration wants to get rid of it. That is like protecting people from like credit card fraud. Yeah. What happens if that goes away?
So look, terrible for individuals, but stop and think overall about the social contract. Part of the deal in how we've kept this democracy, this economy, this country on a fairly steady path for more than 200 years has been that those at the top pay a little more in taxes, are a little less rich than they otherwise might be, and everybody else at least gets a chance.
Yeah.
And what happens when you turn this into the billionaires run it all is they get the opportunity to squeeze every last penny.
Yeah.
And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
Yeah.
It's the but that kills. Elizabeth Warren can't just say violence is wrong. And I need people, and by the way, I know there are a lot of reporters in Washington and New York who listen to this program. I know it because I interact with them a lot. And I need all of you, some of whom disagree with me on this, but I need you to listen. Need to be very honest with you. Need to be very clear with you. Very pointed with you. When Donald Trump was president last time, Donald Trump regularly attacked members of the media. Regularly attacked members of the media. A man in Florida in a white van plotted to murder members of the press and their families. He was arrested by authorities. This man wished to murder members of the press and their families. He targeted, I don't want to say who, but one of the most prominent members of the press. He found out where that guy's children go to school. And it wasn't just this member of the press on the target list, it was his children at their school. There were no buts in the condemnations except from some fringe members of the far right. Everyone else was very explicit. This has to be condemned. We can disagree in this country, and disagreement is healthy. Taking a life for any reason is wrong. There is no but. There is no caveat. There is no carve-out. There is no justification. There is no explanation. And we're not hearing that from a lot of Democrats. To their credit, John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, and Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, they've been very clear. There are no buts. There are no caveats, no carve-outs. You cannot take someone's life because you disagree with them or hate the company they work for. But a lot of the Democrats, including you just heard Elizabeth Warren, violence is wrong, but... Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, violence is wrong, but CBS News, violence is wrong, but New York Times, it's understandable. Listen, they're building the permission structure for future violence, and they can't contain it. I said this the other day. It's got to be repeated. You nor I have the ability to carve out an exception from no. No, but none of us get to do that when it comes to taking another human being's life. And yet that's what the Democrats are trying to do. And unfortunately for the Democrats, as they just learned in an election, a majority of the country disagrees with a lot of their views. And if the Democrats think that they can carve out the exception to the rule, they're not going to be alone in that. To Elizabeth Warren directly, Senator, you helped create the system that Louis Mangione despised. You created the system. It's called Obamacare, and you've defended it, and you've protected it, and you've stopped change to it. You filibustered change to it. You've blocked it, blocked reform to it. People hate health care. They hate Obamacare. You're one of the ones who broke the system. Violence is never acceptable, but people are going to take matters into their own hands, Senator. That's what you believe. Are they going to come for you next? God forbid they do. Or target Barack Obama for creating Obamacare, or any other Democrat. You should be more measured in your words, and you can't help yourself because you're trying to wrap an explanation in and advance a political agenda on the death of a father and husband. And frankly, it is ghoulish that any one of you would be out there and say, yeah, he kind of deserved it. I understand it. Do you understand that a man has left behind a wife and his children, and Jimmy Kimmel rather, is doing punchlines on a show about how his staff want to marry Louis Mangione in jail and be a prison bride because they think he's hot and did a good thing or some such? There are two young boys who on Christmas morning will not have their father there to see them open the presents that he's bought them already. There is a woman who on Christmas morning will have to do it alone because her husband's not there. He was the victim, not you. He was the innocent man. A celebrity entertainment website yesterday put out a tweet. I want to read this one word for word, and I didn't bookmark it, but I know I retweeted it, and it just gives you a sense of the level of ghoulishness that we're dealing with when it comes to this subject. It absolutely just was a bizarre sentiment that these people decided to put forward, and it just, there's a level of clueless shame when it comes to them. Looks like they might have actually, well, thank goodness, deleted the tweet, but it was something along the lines of Louis Mangione allegedly killed this healthcare executive, and some are worried it could spread to attacks on innocent people. That was basically how it was worded. Brian Thompson was an innocent person. Brian Thompson is from Jewell, Iowa. Population 12,000. Left Jewell, Iowa, population 12,000. Wound up leading a company with 140,000 employees overseeing $280 billion in revenue. One of the world's most important companies. His mom was a beautician. His dad worked at a grain elevator. He graduated valedictorian from a 50-person high school. He played basketball and trombone. He was the homecoming king. He worked in soybean fields and a meat processing plant during summers to help his family. While he studied at the University of Iowa, he met his wife. They had 2 kids. He was smart. He was funny. By all accounts, he was someone people enjoyed working for. He was not the mean, nasty boss of a healthcare company. He was actually a personable person who cared about his employees, who knew them by name. And he was murdered in the streets of New York. And this pop culture account says Louis Mangione thought about using a bomb, but was afraid it would kill innocent people too. You mean like Brian Thompson? And so many of you who are listening right now, people I know, people I don't know, people in the conversation are talking about, yeah, but healthcare sucks and I get his frustrations. When you start doing that, you lay the permission structure for the attacks on the oil executives too, because yeah, it was wrong, but they're killing the planet. So I get it. You lay the foundation for the killing of the abortion doctors. Yeah, it's wrong, but they're killing kids and somebody's got to do something. You're laying the foundation for the permission structure to kill doctors who perform transitions for children. Yeah, killing someone's wrong, but at some point, people get fed up and they got to take matters into their hands. You're laying the permission structure for future violence when you cannot just say, this is a husband and a father who did not deserve to die because of your frustrations with insurance in this country. We do not do that. We do not take the lives of others. And when you can't bring yourself to acknowledge that he's an innocent man, you're part of the problem and you're seeding future violence in this country, and you do not get to control the direction in which the violence goes. Elizabeth Warren, when she gets on television and adds the but, she's adding a but that is a permission structure for other people to kill other people. And notice they've done the same thing with anti-Semitism. There's an attack on Jews in this country, and Joe Biden says, look, I get it, but Islamophobia is bad too. I get it, but the war on Gaza is bad. No, you can't attack the Jews, but there can be no but to anti-Semitism. There can be no but to the murder of a man or a woman or a child. There can be no buts, because once you start adding the carve-outs, the exceptions, the caveats, the exceptions to the rule, you begin to lay the foundation for future violence that you will not control. And those of you in the press should remember the man in the white van who wanted to murder you and your families, because you're the ones planting the seeds of future violence by adding the exceptions, the carve-outs, the caveats. The exceptions to the rule will come for you too. Don't think it won't. We've already seen the man in the white van. I know where this stuff heads. In 2016, Donald Trump and I didn't see eye to eye. He came after me on social media. I had people show up at my home to threaten my family. My children were bullied and beaten up at school. I don't blame Donald Trump for that. But I understand how words can provoke people. And I don't think I actually think that I think that the Democrats do understand. They say words can be violence, that they understand. I don't know that Trump ever had a sense of the passions that people had for him in 2016. I think he does now. But I've seen it in my own life. And if you can't process that, Democrats, if you can't process that, members of the press, process Henry II. Who will rid me of this turbulent priest? He asked openly. And Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, was murdered because he asked that question. When you say violence is not the answer, but you're seeding the ground for people ridding you of the turbulent people you don't like, even without you being explicit. Something Hillsdale College understands when it talks about words and language and how there's power in language. And they want to teach you about the power in the language that you see in the Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens' famous Christmas Carol. You can go to ericforhillsdale.com today. You can sign up with Hillsdale College and you can take a free, very short series of video lectures on a Christmas Carol from one of their English professors. And it gives you a great sense of how Hillsdale teaches at Hillsdale College. And it gives you a really detailed sense of the underlying underlying meanings and themes of A Christmas Carol. It's such a perfect thing to do at this time of year. We all remember the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. Well, now learn the meaning behind the story and the themes that Dickens was highlighting. It's completely free. All you do is go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up today at Hillsdale College. You can also get Imprimus for free. Larry Arndt's lectures on the Constitution for free. Victor Davis Hanson's lectures on citizenship for free. You can get their podcast network for free. You get so much educational material from Hillsdale College at no charge to you. All you have to do is go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com today. Sign up with Hillsdale College, start a relationship with them, find out what makes them so unique. Welcome. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building or building a building or you're buying heavy equipment, you need a loan for heavy equipment. First Liberty, well, they know how to do it. They've been doing it since the 90s. They'd love to reach out to you and work with you and see if you're a fit for their program. Go to firstlibertyga.com. All their contact info is there. Doesn't matter where you are in the United States. If you're a business, they help businesses across the continental United States, Alaska and Hawaii. Go to firstlibertyga.com. I mention Alaska because at the end of this month, we'll be on in Anchorage. We're starting to grow more. More on that later. I got to tell you guys, I don't mean to brag. I don't mean to brag. But do you know where I'll be this afternoon? I'm not going to give you the exact location, but I'm going to tell you. A1A Beachfront Avenue, baby. I had to tell my wife that. Surely some of you get the Vanilla Ice reference. Okay, I gotta say something here. Jim, my board op from the beginning of this program, retired yesterday. He and his wife on their way to the Virgin Islands. I asked what time their flight was last night. They looked at me funny. Jim says, "I've never been on an airplane." So what do you mean you've never been on an airplane? I said, "I thought you were going to the Virgin Islands." He's like, "Yes, we're driving to Fort Lauderdale and getting on a boat." I was like, oh. Today is a new day as we welcome Kobe behind the board. You'll hear from him about as much as you heard from Jim, I'm sure. But Kobe, it is delightful to have you with me on the program. Glad to have you on board. It's your board now. You're in charge, so you get to say awful, mean things to me down the microphone when I screw up. Not that Jim ever did, but, I mean, on occasion, I would get yelled at by Jim. You would think the Eric Erickson Show means I could get away with a lot, but I am surrounded by people who boss me around, and now Kobe, who is younger than me, gets to boss me around, and I can't really fire him. He's indispensable now.